Hey there, welcome back. My name's Jay Gordon. This is Azure FunBytes, and today we're going to talk about data centers, regions, availability zones, and SLAs. Let's get into it.
The Azure Cloud is a collection of distributed data centers positioned around the globe. Understanding the organization of these data centers and how they allow users to ensure their applications are always online is one of the core fundamentals of using Azure. Let's walk through the main components that make up the Azure Cloud. Regions. A region is a geographical area on the planet containing at least one, but potentially multiple data centers that are nearby and networked together with a low latency network.
Hi, I'm Scott Cates. The reliability of your application is going to start with understanding that your application is going to fail. Now, if you distribute the infrastructure of your application across multiple availability zones in Azure, that can greatly reduce the outage of your application when that failure happens.
Availability zones, or AZs, are data centers that are physically located in the same region but are separate facilities. Each data center is independently powered and networked, ensuring isolation from the other AZs. Not all regions have availability zones, but the ones that do have at least 3 separate zones, so make sure you check the list before you launch. All of these resources that you have access to in Azure's regions come with a service level agreement, or SLA. SLAs describe Microsoft's commitment to providing Azure customers with the specific performance standards. Different products and services have their own SLAs that must meet performance, uptime, and connectivity targets to be within SLA. If an SLA is not met, a service credit may be issued to the user. For example, for any single instance virtual machine using premium SSD or UltraDisk for all operating system disks and data disks. Azure's SLA guarantees you that you will have a virtual machine connectivity of at least 99.9%.
You can see even more documentation in the link below. Go ahead, click that now, get up to $200 in free Azure credit. Once again, I'm Jay Gordon, and I'll see you next time on Azure FunBytes. Well, hey everybody, I'm back. It's Jay, and welcome to Azure FunBytes. It's another real great opportunity for you, me, and everyone else to talk about the way to get started using Microsoft Azure. We go over the fundamentals, the ways that all the things on Azure affect you, and how you can actually start learning and doing lots of really cool stuff. So here with me in the studio live from New York City is Meadow. She's a little sleepy there, but she's here. And then there's my friend, the other dog. He's the famous dude. He tells us this is fine. Make sure everything works out. So cool. It's going to be a really, really cool hour. And to join me in such a cool hour, I have brought a friend, a coworker, a communicator, and a survivor of the internet is, I think, a really amazing way to put it. Her name is Chloe Condon. Hey.
Hey. Oh my gosh. I love that. Survivor of the internet. I'm going to add that to my LinkedIn profile now.
I was thinking of like a really great way to put it, because without making it say like this is a person that's just seen the gambit of the internet, but I wanted to just say survivor of the internet. You've seen it all, and you've done a lot. You've done pretty close to a lot of it that I've seen in the short time that I've seen you do it.
Yeah, I've worn many hats, or I guess as they for folks who don't know, I have a theater background and a theater degree, so I've worn many costumes in my life over the last 30 years of my life. So yeah, it's very fun to now be working with you at Microsoft, since it feels like just yesterday we met at DevOps Day Boston, maybe like 4 years ago.
Maybe. I was working at the time for MongoDB. I think you were working for, was it CodeFresh?
For CodeFresh, yeah.
My and this is something I just wanted to put up for everybody. You can see we're going to be working with this app during the time, and I want to make sure that you see it here. It is in the chat. But yeah, we met at DevOps Days Boston. We were working for different companies than we do now. But we actually found an opportunity to do something, I think, that was a little bit more than where we worked.
Yeah. One of the more fun things we worked on.
Yeah. Go for it. You can kind of talk about the JewelBots if you want.
Yeah. So for those out there who aren't familiar, there's this wonderful, wonderful product called JewelBots that Sarah Chips put together. And it's to help get young ladies interested in programming. So it's a wearable device, kind of similar to a Fitbit almost, but it's shaped like a flower. And it was built with the intention to teach young ladies how to code. And it has a really easy to use interface. And we did a workshop with MongoDB over in Silicon Valley, where we brought a bunch of girls together with their parents. We had, oh my gosh, in addition to making JewelBots, we also had a hair station and a sparkle.
It felt like
glitter.
a birthday party, you know?
It did feel like a birthday party, and it was so fun. And I was actually just talking about this the other day on another stream. There was like a 3 or 4 year old in this class who picked up the concepts of coding so quickly that I was like, this is going to be the CEO of a company I work at someday.
And she was super tiny is the thing that I remember. She was this like just tiny girl, and her father was this programmer at another bigger company.
Yeah.
And it was just so cute to see how interested she was, and then how like he could just debug it.
Yeah.
Like I think it was like it wasn't assembly. I think it was like C or something like that. It was like very, very simple like instruction code. I forgot what the language is.
It was such a fun event. And I think it was such a display of showing young girls specifically like, hey, you can love pink and sparkles. I think we even had like inflatable ice cream and a little photo booth and stuff, and you can still be a programmer. And for those who've never played with a JewelBot before, you can program them to like buzz when you're near your friends in class, or light up when you press a button and kind of like ping your friends. So it's a really fun interactive project that I highly, highly recommend for folks. We've got the link here. I'm like learning how to point. The link over here if you want to check them out. But yeah, I am all for, especially as a very, as I like to say, femme STEM. I find it very important to amplify projects and people who are working on things. I say as I wear my pink slippers here, because you don't have to look or act a certain way to be a programmer. You can like pink sparkle things, you can have color changing nails, and still really enjoy programming. So I try to incorporate that into a lot of the projects that I do with like fake boyfriend apps and, but I also do nerdy things like Mario Kart astrology and things like that. But it's been really fun to kind of include projects that help get either non-traditional background folks into STEM, or just encourage more women to join STEM, because we need you. Please come.
Absolutely. I think that that there's a really great thing about people who are coming from non-traditional roles and are making it their way. Like you came from a theater background, and you made your way here. You've found your place, and I think that's great. You know how to do your specific way of presenting technology, and I think that your theatrical background and your just overall exuberance allows you to be able to tell people, this is a great way to do this, and you're going to kind of do it with me because I'm having fun with you. And I appreciate that, because that's the way. You know Kelsey Hightower, of course, right?
Oh yes. Love. Don't say his name 3 times though, because he'll appear like Beetlejuice. When we talk about Kubernetes, if you say Kelsey Hightower 3 times, he'll appear in the chat.
He does this thing that he calls learning in public. And I really started appreciating that methodology, and I've kind of taken it on myself. And that's kind of what we do here on Azure FunBytes, is we learn in public every single time we do this. And so one of the things I want to kind of get started with is I want to show some people the documentation that we're going to kind of look at today, or at least the big idea we're going to look at. We'll look at documentation some other point, but this is the big thing that I wanted to talk to everyone about today. And Chloe, I know that you build stuff on Azure.
Oh yes, all the time.
And so when you build stuff on Azure, ultimately, no matter how small the device that you're attaching to it, like an IoT, or no matter how big the application, like something run on Kubernetes or Service Mesh, they're using all the same principles of the Azure geographies. And so I wanted to kind of talk with you, Chloe, today about like what you know about them and what I can tell you about them. And I don't want to mansplain it to you because that's not what this is about. Then it's the big reason I wanted you to be part of this is that I know that you've deployed things. You have stuff that's currently running on Azure and you've seen success doing it. And I think that hearing another person's view coming from a completely different angle, because you're kind of doing different stuff than me.
Yeah, it's been really interesting because I had you on my show. I do a show called Show and Tell on YouTube, and you came on and talked all about logic apps, and we talked about how you can choose what geography and what region to put your project in, which is fascinating to me because typically when I'm building projects, I'm building demos and I'm just running them locally, or maybe back in the day when we could travel, I would speak at a conference and just have it in that area. But when we talk about these large scale apps that are serving, hundreds of thousands of people, this is a knowledge gap that I have in a sense, because my projects tend to be a little bit more smaller scale or personal use. So I'm excited to dive in today.
Cool. So I brought up Azure. What you're seeing here literally is Azure. This is the global overview of everything that it basically makes up Azure, including some private regions that are part of governments. So let's talk about the big idea, Chloe. What's the last application that you deployed and what kind?
Yeah, so most recently, I made this really fun, if you play Animal Crossing out there, shout out, I'll share my island code later. I made a Azure turnip timer that works with the Courier app, which is a notification system that'll let you know when it's time to buy turnips on your Animal Crossing island. So it sends a notification of your choice. I usually choose email or Slack, and it'll send that message. I believe it's between 1 at 5 a.m. and then 1 at 11 a.m. right before the noon cutoff time. If you're unfamiliar with Animal Crossing, there's a stock market, spelled STALK, of course, because it's a turnip stock. And you have to buy and sell your turnips, and you can kind of get a return on them. So yeah, that's it uses Azure Functions. It uses the Courier API. We're hosting it on Azure, and it was really fun to problem solve specifically with geographic regions because we wanted to be able to serve the entire planet, which gets really, really fun when you get into the math of UTC and when we're sleeping, Australia is buying their turnips a day ahead of us. So there's a lot of fun problem solving there. So we needed to make sure that we were up and running, not just on Saturday or on Sunday when you can buy turnips, but Sunday for everyone all over the map. So I'm excited to talk about this today because it's very relevant to our project.
Sure. So I'm looking forward to seeing a little bit more, and I think you got a demo set up of it so we can kind of look about and think about the architecture of it, at least the things that are making. So you've got your Azure portal at some point, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how it's configured. And so we can look at the products that make up this application and look at the concepts that we're going to kind of talk about right now. And so the first one that we're going to look at right now is like the global overview, like I said. Excuse me. A little something in my throat. It's nothing worse. Jeez. Nowadays, like
dog fur from meadow shedding.
I was jogging earlier, and I coughed a little at a stop when I was at a red light, and someone stared at me, and I was just like, I was wearing a mask, and I kind of just shrugged, like, what do you want? Anyway, speaking of like New York and jogging, so this is right here, East US, and this is around where I live, but it's not. It's probably closer to Virginia. Most of these data centers like this are located in the Virginia area. Then we have one in the South Central US, that's Texas area. One here specifically US Gov. That's just for government stuff, period. That's all that's allowed to be hosted there. US Gov Arizona, same thing like that. And all across North America. We go over here to Europe, you'll see tremendous density. You'll see over here all the way into Asia. We call this in the biz Asia Pac, all the way over to Australia. where you can see we've got coverage. And the big difference is we've got announced regions like these little stars. And so this is kind of the entire map of globally what Azure looks like. And so the first thing I ask you, Chloe, is when you start building something, where do you think it's, how do you get started thinking about where to put it when you get started?
So typically when I'm building an application for myself, like I said, I'm usually running it locally, but there's been projects in the past where I have to think about these specific things. So what comes to mind is anything that's going to be HIPAA compliant. Typically I want that to be local to, whatever project that I'm building to make sure that I'm following the proper laws and mandates around that. But yeah, I was actually just thinking, Jay, during Ignite the tour, I gave an intro to Azure fundamentals talk that I believe our coworker Christina helped put together. And there's a story in there that I always think of when I think of spreading my where I'm hosting across the map, specifically that had to do with different hurricanes and natural disasters that happen in local areas to make sure that you're not only having coverage for that specific area, but you have backups of your data. So when I'm thinking about building these projects, especially on a larger scale, I'm thinking, okay, who's using this application? Are there any legal requirements to where I should be hosting this? So like you said, government affiliated things, anything that may be that has HIPAA compliancy for a certain country. And then where am I going to be demoing this is one that I'm thinking about a lot. Specifically, I don't have the button with me, but with my fake boyfriend project, which is a IoT button called a flick button that I would click the button, it would trigger an Azure function and send a text message or a call to my phone. When I'm demoing that on stage, I want it to go fast. Gotta go fast, like Sonic the Hedgehog, right? What I don't want to have happen is click that button, and then 5 minutes later, when my talk is over, my phone starts ringing off the hook or sending text messages to me. So local availability is always really important. Just making sure that everything's up and running where it needs to be.
Cool. So let's take a quick look at the United States. I mean, I'm not going to get further into that abstract, but let's look at it as far as Azure is concerned.
Sure.
We've got all these geographies here that make up Azure in North America, specifically United States. And so this architecture gets broken up a little bit into the things that make up Azure. And the first thing we think about are regions. And so regions are basically, where are our data centers? What part of the world are they? And so, as you can see, each region is located, in a different part of the United States, and they're all centrally located in places that have a big infrastructure, so that if something is online, it stays online. Power, and also the ability to get emergency resources.
Yes.
So these places like Virginia, they're within the Washington, D.C. area. And if there is a major power outage in that area, they can easily get fuel and all these other resources there to make sure that whatever's in that data center stays online. So do you know what an AZ is, Chloe? An AZ?
I mean, I use that to abbreviate Azure a lot.
So within the Azure regions, there are availability zones. And these availability zones are essentially data centers. And they're independent data centers, but they make up one specific region. And not every single one of them has availability zones. So when you build things, you kind of have to be aware of that. So let's take a look. So if we're building something in the central US region, and we need to have high availability, we would pick the services that have this region that we need in Iowa or in the central, because it has 3 availability zones. What I wouldn't do if I needed high availability. Hold on a second.
While you cough, I'll sing a song that I just thought of while you were saying this. If anybody ever watched Carmen Sandiego back in the day, I keep thinking, where in the world are we hosting our data? I'll cut it right there so we don't have to pay for music rights.
Thank you. Yeah, geez, somebody will yell at us. Anyway, as you can see here, like, not every single data center has these 3 availability zones.
Yeah.
And without those 3, then we can't necessarily put things in replicated data centers across 3. You know what I mean? And I'll show you what I mean when you can put things in availability zones and create availability sets, so that when one thing goes down, other things in other regions will stay up.
Jay, I have a question.
Go.
Do you get to pick what those zones are, or are they assigned to you?
So you can pick AZs if you want to, in certain instances. There are different things that allow you to pick the AZs. And then there are other services that will just automatically assign because they spread them across. It really comes down to how you're using Azure in that particular situation. So, like, if I'm creating a scale set of virtual machines, which I've done today for an example, we can take them and spread them across a number of availability zones so that we can ensure if one of those in the 3 goes down, it stays up, the application.
And I imagine you wouldn't want to have the availability zones too close to each other, just in case there's, some sort of, like we mentioned, a natural disaster, and you kind of want to like spread it across depending on where your users are.
Well, they're in the same general area. They tend to be right in the same area, but each one is replicated but has independent power, has independent everything. So the assumption is that of these 3, they are located enough in a particular area in Virginia that if something bad happens, one would survive.
Sure.
That's the thought process. And then all of these regions have different products. So, like, you can take a look here in the central U.S. There will be, and you can look here, some products that exist that are just not here because services or servers or whatever, they just haven't been put there, or the services are just still kind of small in use. So, like, computer vision is one of those services to look at images and come up with an idea. That's here, but
they have Face, my favorite API, the Face API.
Well, we can see here that Azure Open Datasets, it's not here. So if we go back and then we look in East US, which is one of the more populated of almost all. Wrong thing. Of almost all of the data regions, or I should say data center regions, you can see just about everything for the big machine learnings. So these big services that need tons and tons of gear, those are there. HD Insights, Databricks, these are all big data services. And so that's where a lot of the big iron is located there. You can see all these big virtual machines, all these different data center server types. You need to have all that hardware there in order to virtualize it. So these are kind of spread across, and all the different services that Azure needs, at some point, they're going to touch a virtual machine. They're going to touch one of these things, and it's all going to help bring the applications that you build, I build, or the people who are watching are building. So first thing to ask you, Chloe, is have you ever worked with Linux virtual machines at all?
Yes.
Very cool. So then this should be a breeze. One cool thing that Azure has is this thing called virtual machine scale sets. And so it allows you to actually just do something like add, and auto scaling is kind of a service that really helps make the cloud go. And so what you can do is basically say you want scale sets, you can type here in this new virtual machine scale sets, and you can set up a set of auto scaling servers, whether it's Linux, Windows, it's all based on the virtual machine image you pick for the operating system, and then you can deploy what you want to it and then set up rules to scale up and down. But I wanted to show you the thing that you asked me before. So you said, can I pick where that stuff goes?
Yes.
Well, here's a really great example. So here is a region that I'll pick when I'm going to build my scale set. I can pick whichever the ones I want. I'm going to pick East US. You know why? East Coast bias, baby. That's just that's what it
I can
is.
tell from the hat.
So now you see here the availability zone. And it says, why don't you read that for me, Chloe? If you
It
can
says, you can optionally specify an availability zone in which to deploy your skill set. If you choose to do so, your managed disk and public IP, if you have one, will be created in the same availability zone as your skill set. Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So you can see what I'm talking about, where we can then choose one of the three to put our application servers in. So in this case, I can say, well, I just want it in zone 1. I don't need high availability to that level because maybe I don't need it. I don't know why. Maybe that's just how I'm spreading up this app. But if I wanted to get the most high availability, and this will be something that we talk about next with SLAs. If I want the highest SLA for credits, if something goes wrong, I should spread it this way. And then I should pick when I go to my disks. So I'm just going to type a crappy password.
So yesterday I tweeted out an image of Flubber, and I said, this is what I think about anytime I think of blob storage. Now, anytime that I think of zones, I'm going to think of Britney Spears in the zone. That's going to be my new visual cue as a visual learner.
So for anybody to think they're going to hack this, I'm only typing this on not create anything, and I've never used this password before. Not once. I'm making it up as I go. Cool. So I want to go to the next part, which is disks. And so the other thing that we need to do is we want to ensure high availability, and we need to pick disks that meet that. And so there's these different disk types, and I can choose between different types of managed disks. So I'm going to go here, and this is going to kind of lead me into the next subject, is they all have different availability SLAs. So these are like the different types of disks we can build on, but these disks are replicated in different ways. They have different performance capabilities, and they also have different SLAs. And so when you think about SLAs, you're talking about service level agreement. So have you worked with someone that's like talked to you about SLAs before, Chloe?
Yes, we dealt with SLAs quite a bit over at Sentry, a company that he used to work for.
And so if I'm right, let's just put it this way. So Chloe, you and I have decided we're going to put on a show for a bunch of our friends. Okay. We're going to bring in 100 of our friends, and they're going to watch you do Chloe Performs Live. And a part of Chloe Performs Live states that of those 100 people that show up, we want to make sure that 99.99% of them have drinks. And so you and I have made an agreement that you say to me, Jay, you're in charge of this show and making sure everyone gets drinks. And
LaCroix specifically.
Yes, LaCroix. And so within that show, if 99.99% of the people don't get drinks, you tell me, Jay, you need to return me some money that I paid you to make sure everyone gets drinks. So I'm your drink service, and it's my job to put LaCroix in everybody's hand. And if I mess that up, and I'm supposed to do all these things that make sense to you and to me to get that to happen, we have an agreement, it's a contract, I have to pay you. That's essentially what we're talking about with this SLA. And that's why if I want to have the application that I have stay up the longest amount of time, I need to pick the disk that has the highest SLA. So if we do this and we go to, what's going on here? Come on. You know, that's the hard thing about hard things is when you do it live.
We're doing it live. Streaming, never a dull moment.
No, well, here, I'll just wait. I think there it is. Thank you. Jeez.
I have another question, Jay.
Go for it.
In what situation would you want to have like a lower SLA? Like, I imagine that typically we want it to be like 99.9999, but
sure.
Is there any situation where maybe that doesn't matter, or maybe we want like a different SLA?
Costs. Let's just talk about. So different products have different SLAs, and that's the thing. Ooh, let's see what I can close here to make sure that we're. So let's take a look at that. We go here to SLA disks. Here, SLA Microsoft Azure. So different types of products have different types of SLAs. I actually think let's go to here, SLA Azure. And here we go. So if you go to this, I'm going to share this link for everybody in the chat. Shorten. Every single product on Azure has a different SLA, period. Azure has an SLA. IoT Hub has an SLA. Your virtual machine has an SLA. Everything has to have an SLA. And different SLAs come with different uptime requirements, and different uptime requirements also come at different price levels. So there's like premium. Here's a great example. Databases. Let's look at Azure Cosmos Db, which is something we're going to talk about. It has its own SLA. And so here it is. The service comp offers a comprehensive 99.99% SLA. And then read and write availability, if you have it configured a specific way, we could have 99.999%. So what's the difference between the two? And let's make it kind of obvious for everyone. Azure Cosmos DB is a globally distributed database, and that means that your data goes anywhere that Azure has it available to go, and it's all replicated. Doing that in 5 places is a different SLA than doing it in 1 place.
Right.
And so that's kind of the best way to think about it. You literally think of 5 to 1 is like, which is going to cost more, and if I have to make a decision on what kind of durability an application has to have. So if turnip time is a mission critical application, if turnip time is being used globally by everybody in the Animal Crossing world, and they rely on it, then this is something that you would say, you know what, let's look at the SLA details. You can see they all have specific things. And so the manual failover, if your database was to fail over, they guarantee you that turnip times database failover will never exceed 5 minutes. And if it does, then you're due money. Meadow, you due money? Oh, she's passed out. Can you see that? Let me see if I can bring it over.
Sleepy.
Bring it up just a little bit. Look at
I'm
her.
here for the dog content.
She's been here. Her SLA is insane. Like the returns and her uptime is so cool. Just a great dog. So we have all these things that we we're required to make sure that happen as Azure. And so you can see you actually get service credits that equate to money. And so we're basically saying, like, we have a contract with you as soon as you give us your money to make sure that the things that you expect to happen. So I was showing you how to create the scale set, and I actually already created one because, I baked that cake, and now, I talk about how to bake, and then here it is. The
Boom.
And so here, I wonder if the application deployed. Let's take a look. Paste and go.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, probably not. It's not a big deal. It's not really what we're talking about today. What we're really going to talk about is if the application was up, and it's my fault, it's not. I need to go and take a look at the code. But the point I wanted to talk about is the instances I have set here. And the fact that I have them configured. So if you go to overview, remember how I said I was setting it up for these multiple availability zones. And so the idea when I created this particular scale set was I wanted to ensure that if any of the 3 data centers in East US went down, that the application would remain online. Or if a server within that, so if we go into the instances, if one of these servers were to go down, that the application would remain online. Now, why this says running and healthy and I can't get to it, we'll figure that another time. I probably made a mistake in configuring the load balancer, and that's just me because I did this hastily. But the idea is that everything is kind of set across in a way that if one fails, the others will remain on.
And is this pretty much automated for us out of the box, Jay? Or is this something that we need to do some configuration on through Azure?
So the great thing about scale sets is basically you go and you create scaling policies within here across those different what are called fault domains. So we can go in here when we set up and provide different policies and different ways we want it to scale. So what we can do is do a custom auto scale, and within here we can actually use specific metrics.
Ooh, so you can get pretty specific.
Yeah. So let's say I want to scale up based on a condition like, let's see what we can do. We can use a specific time and date. We can also scale in and out based on utilization. So let's say that we have a bunch of application servers. And if those application servers that's currently resting at 3, they're across 3 different availability zones, they get too hot. Too many application servers running at the or application processes running on the app.
Or maybe it's Black Friday and you're running like a, some sort of shopping site and you need to make sure that everything is available during that peak time for your business.
Yep. We can essentially set up different rules that, hey, it is too hot in here. Let's turn the air conditioning cool and let it happen automatically. So then all of a sudden we get more servers. Gets a little cooler in here because there's more spread. There's more servers to spread across the application. Man, it's much cooler in here. And then things aren't so hot. And what happens when they're not so hot? You can start scaling it back in. You can turn it from, and these are for the dads who may be watching. You can go from, you could take it from 72 back to that 76, that happy place, where the thermostat's not that low. And so that's the whole idea of, like, we can scale across those different domains in those availability zones. So if one is to fail, don't worry about it. It'll be spread across the other 2. And then the auto scaling will also consider these different metrics to go up and down on. That's a weird way to say it. They go up as we need to scale up and down as we need to scale down, and even ways to scale out and spread across. There's things we can do to actually spread across our application. So just build the server larger as opposed to
that
just
way
building
you're
more.
Not using more than you need or not using less than you need. It can expand and detract as you need it, I would imagine.
Looks like the 72-degree debate is going on in the chat. So anyway,
I'm a 68 girl, okay? A solid, I like it a little cold.
I'm not going to lie. When bedtime, I like it around 67.
We have Adrian in the chat. Not to do a plug here, not a sponsor, but just got a bed jet. Keep that bed cold with bed jet.
Yeah, I keep it low, pretty low around bedtime. But daytime, I keep the place maybe around a running 70.
It's so funny that you mentioned. So I myself consider myself a bit of a dad because I tell a lot of dad jokes. I was raised by a dad, and I'm very obsessed with air conditioning. The first startup that I worked at was all dads and myself. So I am very passionate about making sure all the windows are closed, that the AC is staying at 68. So honorary dad right here.
Well, Pop, maybe it's time for you to give me a show off and show me a little bit about your app, and then we can actually look at the architecture and see about how it stays online. All right, Pops? So I'm gonna bring up your screen, and you're gonna tell me a little bit about what you're gonna show me, and I'm gonna go grab Meadow and see if she can sit in my lap.
Sure thing. So also Adrian's in the chat here, so feel free to chime in, Adrian, and I will pipe in some stuff here as well. But first, I'll direct you to my YouTube channel, which apparently I'm in all caps on right now.
You know what, Adrian, if you want to chime in also, Adrian, I can send you, I'll send you an invite on your Twitter. I think I can DM you it.
Oh, a cameo.
And if you want to pop in, you're welcome to.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
If not, don't worry about it. But I think it's Adrian, if I'm right.
Yeah.
You go ahead, Chloe. You do you, and I'll figure this part out.
Totes. So you can check out a full video where we do kind of walk through demo of this here.
He's not camera ready. It's okay. Never mind.
He's got to talk to his agent first. So you can check out this YouTube video where I do a much more in-depth kind of walkthrough of the UI, especially with Courier and all that fun stuff. You can just check that out on my YouTube channel, which is my name, and it's the show and tell episode with Adrian. But essentially, as I mentioned before, we wanted to build this turnip timer that would alert us on Sundays when turnips, you're only allowed to buy turnips from, I believe it's 5 a.m. to noon on Sundays. But of course, that depends on where you're based. So we did a lot of fun. Building the app was actually relatively simple. Where we ran into a lot of fun problems and issues was math, because Adrian and I are not huge math heads. But
I'm a math guy.
So we have a pretty simple form that folks can fill out. They put their region. They sign up through their Courier account because they can determine where they want the notification sent, be it. So if you're unfamiliar with Courier, you can check them out on Twitter. They're Try Courier. They do notifications through a bunch of different channels. So like think Twilio, but like on a grand scale of, text messages and Slack. And I'm probably missing a bunch, Adrian, so feel free to chime in the chat. Gmail or email, I should say, any sort of form of notification that you choose. And Adrian's got the link there in the chat, trycourier.com. And what this application does is it's basically a pretty simple Azure function. We use Cosmos Db as well. We store that information from our I'll bring the Azure portal up here. We store that information in a database, and then we check that database to see, okay, in what region is it turnip time? And we send those notifications to the users. So it's a pretty basic app at the end of the day. I'll just kind of like drop into the portal here, Jay, if you want to do kind of a tour or walkthrough of it. But it's pretty simple. It's built mainly on Azure Functions, the Courier API, Cosmos DB. Adrian and I are coming out with a much more in-depth technical blog on that pretty soon. But yeah, that's the gist of it.
So one of the things that this app service does is, like almost everything else on Azure, is it makes use of the infrastructure that Azure provides to you. And so what I think we should do is maybe walk through some of that, because these are the fundamentals that make it. So can you do me a favor? Can you bring up the app itself?
Sure. So the app itself, let's see. In what format?
Is it a web available application, or is it something with a UI, or is this just a service?
It's a service, but Adrian, if you have the link to the form, maybe we can drop it in here.
Yeah, I would love to see like how it gets triggered.
Oops, now I can't minimize this. Let's see. So basically,
I know why. Go up to the top. No, for your browser.
Oh, of my browser, yes.
Yeah, I think you have it maximized.
Yeah, it's weird.
So if you go to view, I think you could just.
Oh, I'm not even clicking on the right thing. Here we go.
Oh, okay.
Or not. I'm using a weird browser here. Okay, so we won't minimize it. But sorry, y'all. I'm having weird computer issues right now. Strange. All right, this is going to be first screen for the rest of my life.
Are you sharing the screen or just a tab?
I'm just sharing. I think I'm sharing the screen.
Yeah, you probably have your browser maximized.
Yeah, it's so weird that I can't minimize it.
I think if you go to view and then exit full screen right there.
There we go.
There you go.
Da-da-da-da.
Oh, yeah.
And then here is our type form. So we have a type form thing right here. So this is basically what it looks like. You just fill out your basic information here. So this is all through Typeform. Basically what we're using Azure for is the database. So we're storing all of our information in there. And then obviously the Azure functions. So you would put the name of your islander. So my name in Animal Crossing is Chloe, but I'll make a fake one here. I'll say Jay. Do you play Animal Crossing, Jay?
Nah, I don't have one of those things. It
Darn.
just never happened.
Let me guess what the name of your island would be. I feel like it would be a Sopranos theme. So I'm going to say alto soprano because I am an alto soprano, and that's a fun little musical theater joke. And also, full disclosure, I wanted the name of my island. I did not get the one that I wanted. I wanted it to be Gullah Gullah Island, but it was too many characters. Then I choose my time zone here. So this is what's going into our database to let us know. And you can see we have a bunch of time zones here. This is all the fun math that we got to do. So you can choose your time zone, which you are in America. So we are going to find you here because there are a bajillion million Americas. Okay, let's just say that you're in Cancun. And we're going to say you're in Chicago. Okay, there we go. How would you like to be notified? How would you like to be notified, Jay? Email?
SMS?
SMS? Okay. And then we put your phone number. I am not going to put your phone number here because I don't want to dox you on the internet, but you get the basic idea of it.
Thank you.
Let's see. I can't skip ahead, so I'm just going to put a fake number. Whoop, put too many numbers. And man, okay, so we'll just pretend that we went through the whole form. And then what's going to happen is after you filled out this form, we have that information in our database, which is your name, your island name, your time zone, and the preferred way that you want to be notified. And with that information, we are able to then, when it comes time to Saturday and wherever you may live, we're able to send that notification to you. So let's see, I'm going to open this in another tab here, but I'll show you what this looks like when I get these emails on Saturday. So what you will end up getting is a little something like this. Let me open it up here. Let me get the right one. And all right, and we also put some fun memes in here for you. So you'll get an email that says, get your fresh turnips. You can see this is sent at 5 a.m. my time. I live in Oakland, California. And it'll say, ahoy, Chloe. So that's the name that we got. Daisy May has arrived on Baller. That's the name of my island. Find her and buy turnips. For those who don't know, Daisy May is the little pig that sells you turnips on the island. What I'm also going to show you here, I'm going to log, well, first of all, I'll show you there's a randomly generated meme each time you get these notifications that we, Adrian and I, probably the most fun of part of this project that we got to do. But what I want to show you that's really cool is the way that we were able to use Courier and actually have that randomly generated meme. So here's a little peek at the Courier UI. And this is really cool because I'm a very visual learner. So we're able to go in here and actually specify what memes we want to put in here, and then it randomly generates a number. So this is what I love about this is, sure, like as a technical person, this just really simplifies it. It's almost like logic apps, right? Where it's like, why do we need to like re-engineer, like reinvent the wheel here? But what this is really great for is folks on your team, like your marketing team, who maybe don't have the technical expertise to build out an entire UI to notify you of this. So
citizen coders, as we call them.
Citizen coders. Oh, here's one of my favorite memes. So you can see in the UI, it kind of looks like we have all of them in here, but really what's going on, and if I click one of these still make me laugh, is we can actually go in and we've got all the details here of, we can put our alt text, which I obviously need to go in and apply that to, but we're able to make it such that each one of these is assigned a number, and then we can actually, so you can click this filter here, so we randomly generate a number. It has a value less than or not equal to 10, and we're able to randomly send that meme. So that way, when we're getting these emails, if you go to, I search turnips in my inbox here, I obviously get a lot of these notifications. That way we get those different messages based on if Daisy May is leaving or Daisy May is arriving. So yeah, that's kind of a very quick walkthrough.
So I have something that kind of fits into what you're talking about. And remember how I said it was very important to me that if this service becomes like globally important, what do we start doing?
Yeah.
And so this is the thing I wanted to show you is that here's how your application could actually really start getting to the point where it could be always online. And so what we could do is actually use multiple regions to actually host that application. So then we could take that function app that goes to the database that's triggered, say, from here. And Azure Front Door is a service that can actually take our different function apps that are connected to our different data centers, which we can actually replicate the databases for. And then we can actually have an application that is globally available. And we can do this not just for 2 regions. There are regions all around the globe that support Azure app functions. And so what we can do is just start building all these active passive applications. And as you can see, this architecture, it starts getting more and more capable to literally what we call it is disaster recovery safe. That we can, if literally a whole portion of Azure just goes kapoof, like we can keep this stuff online. And be honest with you, if we don't meet those, then we get an SLA that will go ahead and say, you know what, you couldn't keep this online, and we did all these things. And we'll give you the money back. That says you paid this, and here's a credit, and go ahead use that to handle whatever damage that might have been done, and get back to business. So that's,
and we should specify that this credit is in monetary value and not bells in Animal Crossing, the currency of Animal Crossing.
That's right. So, hey, Chloe, I think we've taken a pretty cool trip together today. And I really wanted to say thank you for both being you, which is always fun. And not only that, but just taking a walk through what you've been working on as far as around here, and also showing me this really cool project, Turnip Tom. I dig it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I will definitely tweet out and share all the links to the project. And Adrian and I are working on a fun breakdown of how you can build this yourself. Maybe you want to get notified, I don't know, with something, maybe it's like time to walk Meadow. Maybe we can like repurpose it, like a dog walking reminder, because certainly during this pandemic, it's hard to remember to go outside.
Maybe part of that, like I can say, after every walk, what was the outcome?
Yeah, what happened?
In a return to the maybe the API, I can send a response and say, well, this is what happened. And if people were that much interested in hearing what was going on, then that's really, really weird. I don't like this one. I'm gonna
do some jams.
Just wanted to kind of finish up things before we go. So it's been really cool to kind of walk through all these services. And one of the things I want everybody to know is no matter what you build on Azure, these services all use this core infrastructure ideas of the data center that's located in a region, and that region is made up of a number of availability zones. And within those availability zones are the different products that make up Azure. And so whether you're building, like I said, an Azure function, or you're building something like a bunch of Kubernetes clusters, they all have to kind of exist within the same ideas that Azure is made up of. So they all use those core components. And when you think about the size of the network, the speed of the network, the availability of all the different things from like content delivery networks, which puts videos and images and stuff like that at people's like edge points. So wherever you're in the world, there's amazing edge points to deliver fast content. But not only that, but the simple products you build, like functions and all that, or logic apps, they all use these same core concepts.
Yeah, same skeleton.
Yep. So before we go, we've got a few minutes. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or just want to say, Chloe, you the best?
Yeah, and definitely check out aka.ms/turniptime, spelled like THYME, because yum, turnips. And yeah, we have another blog post coming out soon, and join the party, y'all.
And then you've also got your own kind of little show you talked about before on YouTube that you're doing around. Can you tell me a little bit about it and where we can get to it again?
Yeah, at the risk of sounding like a YouTube influencer, don't forget to like and subscribe. But I have a show on there called Show and Tell, where I have folks come on. Jay was on, and he shared some Logic App fun stuff that he was working on. Got the turnip timer on there. We've got a lot of fun stuff where basically people come and show and tell the cool, awesome STEM projects that they're working on. And coming very soon is Today I Learned, where I talk with Microsoft interns, Microsoft Cloud advocates, and people who are just building really cool stuff on the Microsoft Learn platform. So come join the party, check it out. I'm on Learn TV, I'm on YouTube, I'm streaming on the Microsoft Developer Twitch all the time. So come say hi.
You out there, right?
I'm out there.
Well, I really appreciate it. Chloe, I'm going to send you off. Thank you so much for being part of this today. I hope to chat with you here on the digital scary place in the kind and nice corners.
A DM is always welcome from you, Jay.
Thank you very much. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. That was so great. I'm really lucky that Chloe's been one of those people that I've worked with that's just been really kind, fun, and I believe really understands what people want to learn and how they want to learn it. And I think that that's ultimately what we all want. We want to be able to ingest this information in ways that make us feel welcome. And Chloe's got a really great style and just a good person. So it's been really cool again to do this. I'll be back next week. I gotta get a guest, but I think you will really enjoy the subject. It's a really cool part of Microsoft Azure and its integration into other really helpful tools that make your experience getting started with Azure really, really easy. So until then, I will see you soon. Feel free to reach out on the chat. Feel free to send me a message at AzureFunBytes on Twitter, or share with your friends, share, like, whatever you want to do. I'm just glad we keep doing this. This has been the 9th episode. And like I said, we've got number 10. It's coming up. I've got some great stuff. And I think what we're going to start doing is some review shows. And I'd like to get some of you to be on the review shows. So if you would like to join me, send me an ad on Twitter and say, Jay, I'd like to join you on an Azure Fundamental review show where we'll go back to some of the old episodes. And we'll take a look at some of those subjects, and maybe we'll have you build something using one of these products. I would love to have you part of this. I'd love to have you tell me about your story. So until then, we'll see you next week. Thanks a lot for taking another journey with me and learning the fundamentals of Microsoft Azure. If you've got any questions, or anything else, like I said, I'm here. It's what I do. So until then, we'll see you.